Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is February 12th, 2013. It is approximately 6:34. Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Cordova?
Here.
Councilmember Beta?
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Here.
Councilmember Peralta?
Here.
We do have a quorum. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next, we'll go to item 4, approval of the agenda. Is there any amendments or changes to the agenda as presented? Oscar?
Excuse me, if I may, Mr. Mayor, there's a couple of items that we're going to ask the council to continue, if it's okay. Item 10A and 10B. They're the sign code ordinance modifications and the streamlining of the Planning and Zoning Commission or development process. As you know, we've gone through a transition in that department, and so just to make sure that we're completely up to speed, we'd ask for that to be continued. Of course, you can have the hearing and then continue it, or you can continue it at this point as you wish. There's also in 11A and B, Mr. Mayor, we are still recruiting for those positions right now, and not everybody that we need, not all the positions that we need to be filled at this time have committed to that. Now we are adding to this the requirement that they be a town of Taos residents, and that has proven to be just a little harder to get people, like those people. So if we can continue those matters, I appreciate it.
When we get to those items, I'll entertain a motion accordingly to continue those items date certain. I believe that it's in the best interest to time-wise to make sure staff has vetted all the process and make sure that they've received all the input rather than opening it up for public hearing at this time. So I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, as amended.
As amended? Is that okay?
Yes.
Is there a second? Even though theoretically we didn't amend it, but we just had some points of discussion.
Okay. I was just wondering, I thought the manager had asked for us to amend the agenda to remove those items for
I think
consideration.
the mayor had said he would.
Next time.
You want to deal with it when we get to it, or?
Yeah, I believe those two items will require a motion to continue so that we don't have to republish. So
Okay.
you were just giving us a heads up. So there's a motion
I'll
to
change my motion.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes of January 8th, 2013, regular meeting minutes. Entertain a motion to approve if there's no changes.
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to the meeting minutes of January 22nd, 2013, regular meeting minutes. Any questions to those meeting minutes as presented?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
I have none, Mr. Mayor. None, Mr. Mayor.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we go to the meeting minutes of January 24th, 2013, the special meeting minutes. Any changes to those meeting minutes as presented?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. This time we'd like to welcome our Honorable Judge Chavez here and ask him to come up to the podium as we do have a fellow cadet officer that's going to be sworn in. Ceremonial. We understand that he's already been sworn in and active at work, Judge. So at this time I'd like to call Stephen Lucero to the podium. And If you'd like to bring your parents here, they're welcome to join you at the podium.
Chief.
Chief.
Okay, Mr. Steven Lucero, please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Steven Lucero,
I, Stephen Lucero,
having been appointed to police cadet
have been appointed to police cadet
in and for the town of Taos,
in and for the town of Taos,
for the governing body of the town of Taos,
for the governing body of the town of Taos,
on Monday, January 28, 2013,
on Monday, January 28, 2013,
in the county of Taos,
in the county of Taos,
state of New Mexico,
state of New Mexico,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of New Mexico,
the Constitution and law of the state of New Mexico,
the town of Taos Municipal Code,
the town of Taos Municipal Code,
and faithfully and impartially discharge
and faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of said office
the duties of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I also like to say that, well, once again, welcome Officer Lucero to our force, and say that he's an amazing guitar player and musician as well. So, welcome him to the town of Taos. Next, we will go to item 7, the Citizens Forum. Okay, I just see that the signed up to give a presentation to the mayor and council is the Taos Children's Theater. Those present, like to commence your presentation at this time? And welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to take the mic so that we can move it down in front of each person. So I would like to say I'm Karen Thibodeau, and I'm proud to share with you that I've been director for the Taos Children's Theater for all these years, and it's now coming into its 25th year. I also want to express gratitude for the years of funding from the town and hope that this might continue. This summer, we're going to produce Alice in Wonderland as a bilingual production, or Alicia en el País de las Maravillas. It's a summer theater dance camp in collaboration with Taos Youth Ballet at the Inglada Building. And our DVDs will be on Channel 22 and then be streamed. And we would like to invite the mayor, if he's not too busy singing, or councilman, to come and introduce our first performance in July. And just so you know, a number of our former students are attending the Santa Fe School of Performing Arts and also going on to New York University and California Institute of the Arts and more. And one of them is here who is aspiring to go to Santa Fe School of Performing Arts. This is Matthew Rand.
Hey, as she said, I am trying to get into the NMSA, Mexico School of the Arts. And I've been performing with Karen for 3 years in a row. And it's pretty fun. And I don't know, it's awesome. So in my last time, I played a ugly stepsister and a prince in the RC of the Golden Star, which was a New Mexican version of Cinderella. And in The Tempest, in the summer, I played the lover, Ferdinand, and Trinculo, which was the clown. So they're like two opposite parts. It was pretty fun, and yeah.
Okay.
I see a few of
Thank
you
you, Matthew.
have the Fat Tuesday vibe going on.
Yeah, I'm something like
That's great.
He was just skiing this morning. And Angel, tell us your name.
My name is Angel Real.
And what grade are you in?
5th grade
In what program?
in what?
The dual language.
The dual language program.
Mrs. Alanis.
Mrs. Alanis. I think performing theater is great because then you get to entertain people. Then you could do something you really want.
That's great, Angel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hola, me llamo Rose Osborne y yo tenía un buen tiempo con el Taos Children's Theater. En this otoño en el bilingüe programa. I performed as a sheep in Lucia Octaviano y La Luna. I am in 3rd grade at Enos Garcia in the dual language class. Thank you.
My name's Alana, and I've been with Taos Children's Theater for 2 years, but the last play I was in with her is Lucia Octaviano y La Luna, and I was the sheep Bettina. Over the summer, I was in The Tempest with Karen, and I was actually Matthew's mother, and I was a queen. My name was Queen Alonza. And the summer before that, my first year, I was Hansel from Hansel and Gretel, and the understudy for my friend as Lucinda, and and Jack and the Beanstalk, sorry. And Karen's plays made me want to become an actress when I grow up. So, and it also gives me a chance to be with my friends over the summer and meet a lot of new people that become my friends. And so I think I would just be really sad if I saw it go. And so, yeah.
Lila?
Okay. Hello, I'm Lila Brooks. I am in 7th grade, and I'm 12 years old. And I've been with Taos Children's Theater for 2 years. Last summer, I was in The Tempest with these guys, and I played Helena, a shipwreck lover to Demetrius, which was this little boy, and then the first year I was in Jack and the Beanstalk, and I played Lucinda, and Alana was my understudy. And I guess Taos Children's Theater really lets you express yourself, and that's what I did every year. So yeah, if I saw it go, it would be really sad. But it's a great program, and we should definitely keep it up.
This is Mila Salamone.
Do I say how old I am?
Yes, you do.
I am 9 years old, and I go to the Waldorf School, and in The Tempest, I played the Queen of the Fairies, and I was also a dog in Arcia.
A very wonderful dog, I must add.
My name is Elizabeth, and I go to the Taos Waldorf School. I am 8 years old. And Taos Children's Theater has really made a difference in my life, and I really love it.
My name is Marlon Stessel, and I am 9 years old. I played Roberta in the in the Tempest, and I go to TISA.
Thank you so much for your time
Thank you.
and your support.
You could just see the sparkle in all of their eyes and how much they care for this program. What are some of the challenges that you have and ongoing, and how is it faring thus far?
Oh, funding is always challenging, but it has continued to come in little bits and pieces, and they all add up in a wonderful way.
Do you depend on it by membership, or is it grant funding, or
There is some grant funding. There's some box office. There are 42 local businesses that support the program with contributions of between 25 and 500.
Sure.
Also, the Optimists, and this year the Lions helped out some too.
Great. And I think that if it's grant funding, that we certainly would issue a resolution in support of these type of programs, so that only strengthens your application, these type of funding. Also, my business, I would like to support your efforts in promoting it through my radio stations and getting the word out and getting people attending these functions.
Yeah, that would be sweet. We give 7 performances, and many of the summer school programs come, as well as others like team builders and high altitude gymnastics.
Sure, we definitely would.
And Taos Pueblo Day School.
Love to support it. So.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to all the parents for supporting their kids in performing arts. It's wonderful. Thanks. Okay, at this time we do have the Citizens Forum, and signed up to the Citizens Forum we have Pete Birch. I'm not sure what the last name is. If you could help me with that. Pete. Talking about from El Prado, talking about the TSA. Seen out here.
We're on the agenda for the TSA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. It just, I thought you were going to be speaking under this portion as well. So, okay. Ruben, no. We have Janine Green, citizen, would like to speak at this time. Welcome to our meeting, ma'am. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you had you've already had a long day, I understand. But I'm just going to read this so that I don't go over my time. I appreciate that you are attempting to keep our unique town from being cluttered with incompatible and gauche signage. I also appreciate that your objectives concern public safety. Isn't this sign code that you are amending abridging our First Amendment right to freedom of speech? Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble. Picketers and protesters should be exempt from the sign code without restrictions. The establishment of a safety zone for our own protection is disingenuous when the commerce of newspaper selling occurs every Thursday in the middle of numerous intersections. I don't mind that. I love reading the Taos News. It's just that the concern for public safety is not consistently applied. Placing protesters and picketers inside a zone is discriminatory. How are picketers and strikers like those at the Whitten Inn going to make their case when the perpetrator is across town? Furthermore, to allow political campaign signs to be planted in the ground, 5 per site, for 63 days, while requiring regular civilians, quote, 1 handheld sign fully in control of the person at all times and outside of the site visibility triangle of any intersections or driveways, is also discriminatory. 1 has the right to free speech only if you are running for an election? With all due respect to our town officials, the answer is no. Abolish the safety zone, No one here is yelling fire in a crowded theater, which is the purported justification for these restrictions. Number 15.08.450, signs located on Paseo del Pueblo. This segment also has severe unnecessary restrictions. That a sign can be there for 6 hours only, placed 100 feet from another sign, restrained from the wind but using no heavy materials to do so. How do you suggest we do that? No fluorescent colors. The overreach of your authority here will only cost taxpayers money due to the forthcoming lawsuits over constitutionality. We saw that happen in the past during the lawsuit over the Rumsfeld banner. Wasn't that over $12,000 in attorney's fees? In your State of the Town address, Mayor Cordova, you lamented the across-the-board budget cuts that have resulted in requiring employees to do more with less. Trivial enforcement issues add to the burden of those employees who are already doing more with less. The free speech zone will not stand. Please add to your objectives guaranteeing the right to free speech and remove the zone from your plans. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Mr. Jeff Northrop. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you very much, and I much appreciate the words of Jeannie, and I hope you take them to heart. I want to address that issue on a little different perspective. I'm still waiting for the right-of-way map that covers Paseo del Pueblo Norte, south of the Kachina Lodge, to the south town limits in Ranchos. Without a map, the sign code draft is impossible to evaluate. Item 10 on tonight's agenda will not be voted upon. However, I would like to hear the mayor and councilors discuss the issues of protest and picketing signs, particularly focusing on why this body feels the need to so restrict and isolate picketers. I'm also curious as to why this issue is on the agenda, but numerous other changes proposed in the sign code draft have not surfaced. The sign code draft that surfaced 3 months ago are not on this agenda. There seems to be a rush to address this picketing issue that I don't understand. It just seems like you're on a mission to stifle free speech and overturn the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Secondly, I would like to know if the quarterly citizens forums have been discontinued, and if so, why. I asked this question a few weeks ago and didn't get an answer. We are less than 5 months from the annual 4th of July fireworks display. I'd like to see this $25,000 event discontinued, primarily because its negative effect on animals. The town has promised many times to at least attempt to limit the fear and pain suffered by animals during this 50-minute event. What do you intend to do this year? That's all I have.
Okay. Next, is there anyone else that would like to speak under the Citizens Forum? Welcome to our meeting.
This morning there was a joint meeting with the county commissioners to discuss the proposed move of the dispatch operations to the command center, the Homeland Security and Command Center in Gustorf Road. In speaking about the consultant's report, Mr. Bellis, the assistant county attorney, characterized the report, summarized it, and these are his words, it's a quote: "We have something that sucks. We need something better." I hardly agree with his characterization. He went on to say that there were no benchmarks were established in the report. This is the report. He said simply moving is not going to solve the problem. On page 32, there's a scoring matrix, and anybody who spends any time reading this scoring matrix would find that it's heavily weighted, and the outcome is to essentially create a higher score for the proposed move to the Gustorf location. Mr. Cordova said, and this is a quote, "The outdated JPA would not be approved by the state." He went on to say that many terms have not been updated. JPA is a Joint Powers Agreement, and that it was severely underfunded. Again, a quote, he said, "We're updating the JPA." With respect to the review of the Joint Powers Agreement, Mr. Reyes of Kit Carson Electric said, and again, this is a quote, Mr. Caldwell resurrected that. That's Jacob Caldwell, the former county manager. Again, Mr. Bellis, speaking about the review of the Joint Powers Agreement, said, again, quote, "Mr. Caldwell had agreed to take on review of the Joint Powers Agreement about 1 year ago." In February of 2012, Mr. Caldwell spoke of a scheduled meeting with the JPA signatories at a county commission meeting. At a subsequent meeting of the county commission, in reporting on the outcome of that meeting that he had with the signatories, he said that he wasn't heartened by the response and that he was skeptical about any future progress. I don't know if there were any meetings after that time or not. Mr. Cordova essentially concluded the meeting this morning with respect to his remarks by saying, "I can't tell you how important it is to change our institutional thinking." I wonder if Mr. Cordova would be willing to comment, tell us something about what has changed in less than a year. Why has Mr. Cordova suddenly found religion and is now ready to change everything? Have the facts on the ground changed? Is there anything material that we know now that we didn't know less than a year ago? I wonder if there is any comment on that.
Are you finished?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak under the Citizens Forum? Seeing none, we will go on with the agenda. And we'll go to item 8A. And that is the consent agenda. There's 3 items on the consent agenda. Item 8A, Resolution 1308, Community and Economic Development Block Grant Application. Consideration and approval of Resolution 1308, authorizing the submission of a 2013 Community Development Block Grant application to the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration Local Government Division in the amount of $500,000 and a $50,000 cash match for Chamisa Area Infrastructure Improvements, Phase 3. Item B, Grant Agreement TT 13173 with the New Mexico Historic Preservation Division. Consideration and approval of a grant agreement in the amount of $24,999 with the New Mexico Department of Cultural Affairs Historic Preservation Division for the completion of a structural assessment and preservation plan for the old county courthouse located on Taos Plaza. Item C, Second Amendment to Memorandum of Agreement with New Mexico Department of Transportation for the purchase of a new bus. Consideration and approval of Second Amendment to Memorandum of Agreement TT 12261 with the New Mexico Department of Transportation, Transit, and Rail Division in the amount of $115,000 to purchase one 28-passenger bus to replace a 2005 model with 101,000 miles. Council members, those are the items on the consent agenda. Is there any questions on those? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item 9A, presentation by Taos Sports Alliance. Dustin Lee will give a presentation regarding Taos Sports Alliance Economic Report. Mr. Lee, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, Manager. You guys, I passed this out last time, but I just want to make sure you guys have the economic report. You guys all have this with you? I gave it to you on the 18th. If not, I've got 3 copies, so if you guys want to glance at them. Everybody's got them? Okay.
I didn't bring it.
I guess I just wasted some paper. Anybody want a copy?
I could use a copy. I'm not finding mine on mine.
No?
Justin, if I can have one here.
Yes, yes, sir.
Please. Thank you, sir.
Ten years ago, this town council and this community was thinking about building an eco park and building soccer fields generally. 5 years ago, the Joint Powers Agreement, through some kind of dream, actually got a school board and a town council to collaborate and sign that. It was an amazing feat, I thought, for the community as a whole. And 3 years ago, we actually built phase 1 of the park. We had the eco park built, and it was up and running. And I'm proud to say today, this year coming up, we're going to have the largest NCAA spring soccer event in the entire country. The NCAA, in fact, didn't even know we had it, and they were blown away with what we're doing. In between that first year and now, we've had the first ever NCAA event in Taos of any kind, whatever sport it is. And we had that at the Eco Park. We had the first ever international event at the Eco Park with the Rwandan team coming here. And my executive directors explained to me, Mr. Israel, that if you take Taos in a 500-mile radius, we are now going to have every state university in that 500-mile radius training at the Eco Park this year. Those are just some of the things that show our progression over the course of the last 3 years. Now, simultaneously occurring with the building of this Eco Park and the improvement of the TSA over time, we've had a collapsing economy. Now, 5 years ago, the town had the foresight to invest in some kind of economic stimulation, some kind of economic improvement by signing that JPA. That was 5 years ago. But simultaneously to that, you've got a residential construction industry that's collapsed. You've got a residential construction industry, as some of you know that are in the business, that's gone down 71% in just the last 5 years. We've seen ski numbers in the ski industry also, where their numbers are down 25% consistently since the 90s. And the art community, as you look around, the galleries, etc., they've all continue to close around town. Now, what are we doing? What are we doing as a community? Well, we're trying to proactively stimulate this economy. And how do we do that? And TSA isn't the only thing. We've got to look at some of our strengths. And then we've got to take those strengths and we've got to improve them. We've got to improve upon them and build upon them. You know, we've got tourism. We've got sports and recreational tourism within that. How do we turn around that collapsing construction industry? How do we improve the quality of life in our community? There are many things. We can look at affordable housing. We can look at building a university in this community. We can look at food sustainability and green energy. These are some of the strengths that we can explore, but they're not the only thing. In fact, the one answer that you have worked on as a council that I'm working on also is the sports and recreational tourism model. Now, we feel as a sports alliance that it is our duty to improve the overall tourism model. It's our duty to increase community, local events, tournaments, and activities that improve the social fabric of our community. Now, we have work to do, but we are merely taking the strengths that Taos has already. Taos is beautiful. People want to come here, and we're just trying to give them a reason to come here. And by funding our organization, you've allowed us to do that. And, you know, a lot of people around the community wonder what we're doing. What is the TSA? What do they do? What have we been doing for the last 2 years? Now, in 2011, we had 4 events. In 2012, we had 7 events. Now, if you look at that, we went from 4 to 7 events, and I'll show you in a second here that in 2013 we're going to 12 events. So we go from 4 to 7 to 12 events over the last 3 years. In 2011, we've estimated that we brought $670,000 in direct economic impact to this community. That's money coming into this community that would not be here otherwise. In 2012, with the 7 events that we had, we brought in $750,000 in this community. Now, if you take those numbers and you look at the GRT, which is an important component to the town and how much money they're spending on this organization, we estimate that we brought in $51,000 in GRT in 2011. And we estimate in 2012 that we brought in $57,000 in GRT. I want to talk about some of the events that we had. We had, in 2011, the 4 events, we had an NCAA showcase with 14 teams. We had the Rwandan national team, as we talked about earlier. We had the first ever Taos High School girls soccer tournament. And the only reason that they were able to have that tournament here is because you guys built the Eco Park. And then we also had the Taos Turkey Trot as a local fundraising effort for our community. In 2012, we had the NCAA showcase, and we went from 14 teams to 22 teams in that second year. Now, the high school women's tournament improved into a high school men's tournament. So instead of just having a women's tournament, now we've got 2. We've got men's and women's. We had the 2nd annual Turkey Trot. And then we had the UNM Lobos women's team training camp here. They came in for 1 day, and they were just exploring to see if they liked Taos. We had the Strongsville, Ohio National High School Tour that came through Taos, and they spent an immaculate amount of money here. And then we built the first ever Gran Fondo bicycle race. Now, in 2013, show you the growth, we went from those 7 events in 2012 to now we're expected to have 12 events, right? We're going to have the NCAA showcase, but instead of having 14 teams in year 1 and 22 teams in year 2, we're going to 50 teams in year 3. So what I want to show there is that in addition to adding more events, we're also adding to each event. So we're expanding each event as we go. And what that kind of explains is that these things take time. If you look at Exhibit D in that report, if you have it in front of you, it's a really good kind of idea. That UNM Women's Lobos training camp is a great example. It's the second one down. What it shows is people test the water. They want to see whether these events are going to work. They want to see if it works for their team or for their people. They want to know whether it's going to work out for them. UNM comes here. They train for 1 day on that one event last year. And this year they bring in 3 other teams. They're bringing Northern Arizona University. They're bringing Fort Lewis College. And they're bringing Air Force Academy here now to have this 4-day tournament. So they went from just this one little sampling to now a 4-team tournament over the course of 4 days. And if you look also, obviously, that I explained earlier, you've got the 14 teams in 2011, the 22 teams in 2012, and then the 50 teams in 2013. And again, these things take time to build. Now, for 2013, we're estimating if we have all these 12 events, which we believe we can pull off. You never know. You can't project the future other than what people tell you, so you do your best. But we think that we're going to have these 12 events. And based on these 12 events, we believe that we're going to be bringing in $2.3 million in direct economic impact in our 3rd year as an organization. And if you take that $2.3 million number, you're looking at $181,000 in gross receipts tax directly back to the community. One of the questions I think you have as town councilors is whether or not this organization is functional for its future and whether you want to continue to invest in it. Now, if you look at the amount of money that you spent on our organization so far in our infancy, and we just started, you're looking at $105,000 that you spent 2011 to get our organization off the ground to actually run the Eco Park. In 2012, you spent $85,000, and we're asking for $85,000 again in 2013. If you add all those numbers up, you're looking at $275,000. If you add all the GRT up, based on our estimates from the events that we have, we actually earn $289,000. So you actually, for government spending, you spent less than has come back to the government. I know that money doesn't all go to the town, I know that some of it goes to the county and some of it goes to the state, but the government is investing in the community through the TSA, and the TSA is bringing that money back. And all the while, in addition to becoming even already, you're looking at an organization that's brought $3.7 million in direct economic activity to this community in this first 3 years. And it's only going to grow from here. We've had our kinks, we've worked through them, and we're going to continue to improve. But again, I like to express that just as the 10-year process took to get to this point, you have to continue to see that investment takes time. You have to be patient, and you have to focus on those things that are going to bring this community into an economic positive stance. And this is one of those things. And the TSA doesn't have a blueprint. We don't have a model that we're working off of. We're working from trial and error, essentially. And I think based on our numbers, we've been very successful. The TSA is not necessarily just about economic activity either. What we're talking about here is the quality of life, as we talked about earlier. What we're talking about is the social fabric of our community. And two examples of what we're also working on as an organization are the Taos Blizzard. Been working diligently with Andrew Dunn, the commissioner of the Pecos League, to get the first professional baseball team to Taos. And it may not seem like that big of a deal, but when you're a family in this community looking for something to do, the 17 home games that they're going to have this year are almost a priceless investment for this community. The Turkey Trot is a great example of social fabric building. The first year we had $2,000 that we generated specifically in donations. They went to the Taos High School baseball team for their equipment. And then last year it went to the diabetes program through Get Fit Taos. Now, the question is, what do you guys need to do? What does the town need to do with the TSA? What does it need to do with the Eco Park? What does it need to do generally overall? What are you guys doing? And I think that you, as a town council, have a responsibility to proactively stimulate this economy. It's part of the health, safety, and welfare duty that you have as elected officials. And I think that the TSA has a role in that. I don't think we're the only thing in improving this economy, but I think we are one thing that shows the positive aspects of what happens when government works correctly. So, that being said, what I'm asking you to do is to continue to invest in our organization. I'm asking you to invest in a second field. Because the simple math here, if you take the NCAA showcase by itself, is instead of 50 teams with one field, you're looking at 100 teams with two fields. So instead of having $1.1 million in direct economic impact from that NCAA showcase coming up this year, you'd have $2.2 million. It's that simple. And no, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And we've been investing our asses off in this thing. I'd just like to close and say that this town has never faced an economic downturn like it has right now. As far as I can tell, there's never been historical data that's similar to it. You've got a construction industry that's collapsed. You've got a tourism industry that's on its way down. And you guys have to be creative and aggressive and focused to figure out what those next steps are. And I'm just here to tell you that our organization is part of that formula. Stand for any questions.
Any questions, comments? Councilor Gonzalez?
Thanks for the report, Justin. With regards to the way the TSA contract was negotiated just recently on this last year's turn, Oscar, did we put a mechanism in there that allowed them to raise their own funding along with the funding that we give them?
There was, in fact, a requirement. I mean, that was sort of the expectation. As you know, the town funds them to $85,000 this year. And the expectation was that that would leverage the economic activity that Mr. Lee is talking about, but also that at some point that enterprise begin to fly on its own. And to that end, in that contract, there was a requirement for a business plan, which is what we're getting the presentation for right now.
So with regards to that, Justin, what has TSA done, I guess, with regards to making that transition to becoming the financial stable entity that we would hope it would eventually be?
That's a great question. Now, if you look at the very last page, which would be Exhibit F, it gives you the kind of the outline of 2013, 2014, of what we are intending to do to take some of the burden off of the town. And it has to do with programming, signage, fundraising for our events. In fact, if you look at page 1, under question number 3B, we anticipate that we are going to be able to generate $43,000 in our own money in 2013, 2014. That's specifically based on the Eco Park signage. We are going to go after lodgers tax monies. We are going to start charging for some of our programming to develop some event income, and we're going to be working on fundraising and grants as well. We actually have an employee now that's a grant writer that we're working with to develop some of those aspects as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Are you done, Councilor Gonzalez? Councilmember Silva?
Just as a follow-up to Councilman Gonzalez's questions or remarks, at one point TSA was going to be looking at some corporate sponsorships. Have you had any luck with that?
We've had what would you call it? One step forward, two steps back. We were working with a company called Front Row Marketing, who specifically is designed for field signage at the professional level. So they basically find unique stadiums like what we have, and they try to figure out what kind of corporate sponsor would come in. Now, the historical issue with that was we initially started working with Front Row Marketing, but the contract that we actually had with the town wouldn't allow us to pursue those sponsorships. But since then, we started working with Manager Rodriguez, who was then, he changed our contract where it then became a requirement of our contract as opposed to a block by the JPA. We actually weren't allowed through the JPA to do any marketing on the field at all until we've contracted to it now. It didn't give us the opportunity as the responder to your RFP to do that. So we weren't capable of it. So we were communicating with Front Row. We didn't have the capability of doing it. He frees it up, and then Front Row's salesperson that we were working with then resigned, and I don't know the history behind that. But we've just put another person in place, and they're actually going to be here in 2 weeks to do an assessment on the field to determine what types of corporate sponsorship would be available.
So it's ongoing, and we'll see it forthcoming here pretty soon.
That's correct.
Councilmember Abeyta.
Thank you, Mayor Cordova. Justin, thank you for an excellent briefing. It's very clear from your briefing that we're building this program from an infancy, and it's got only room to grow. Your business plan clearly shows us that in the next 2 or 3 years, you'll be 100% self-sufficient in terms of the $85,000 minimally that you need to operate. But the big challenge that we face is where do we identify $750,000 up to $1 million to put in the next field, which we know will benefit us. It'll double our capacity, but in today's economic times with shrinking dollars, how do we come up with the $1 million?
And may I respond?
Sure, please.
I think that there's two answers to that question. I think that we need to be optimistic, first of all. And if there is money out there, if there is a corporate side to this thing, we're gonna take advantage of it. So I think we should always leave that door open for that possibility. But I don't think that's the only answer. I think that the town does have a certain amount of money based on a lawsuit that exists right now with Lone Mountain. And I don't know the details of how that works, but let's think about this. Let's pause. Now, why can't we build a grass field with that money? We know as an organization now that we can continue to improve and build upon the model that we have with the one field. Now, we would love to have the most amazing field to even expand that even more. But if we've only got what we've got, let's work with it and let's make it happen. We know we can do it. So I don't think it's the only option. I think there are other options. I think there are more financially feasible options that we can explore.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Justin, with regards to that, with you saying, offering alternative options to going to grass, I spoke with the guys from Shaw Sportex, and they've ultimately, kind of relayed the message back to me as a city councilor and saying, well, I think ultimately, with regards to the financial downturn that you guys are experiencing, and realistically to get another field built, regardless of whether that's on turf or that's on grass, it would need to become a multi-use complex, which would be, Yaffle football, Little League baseball, so where it's not just geared 100% to what it is right now, which is soccer. And even though the demand is there, but, just so that there's other outside entities helping to facilitate, helping to burden the costs also with that, has TSA looked beyond into those realms to say, can we bring in other organizations so that this does become a multi-use facility as opposed to just, the soccer complex that it is right now?
Councilmember, yes. The answer is yes. If the council who was here originally when the whole JPA went through, the phase one of that project was specifically soccer. The reason that phase one was specifically soccer was because soccer is the low-hanging fruit. It has nothing to do with a partialness towards soccer. It has to do with the business model itself. What are we doing here? What brings in the most people in our community? What's the thing that's going to have the biggest tournaments where most people are going to stay at the most hotels and spend the most money at the restaurants, et cetera, et cetera? And soccer was that low-hanging fruit. So phase one, when we developed it, was directly centrally focused around soccer. Phase two was actually implemented as a universal field. Phase two was supposed to be it still is. It's supposed to be a field that can be used by multiple entities, whether that's lacrosse or whether that's football or whether that's youth soccer. Now, that was another big issue. The whole plan here was to create, when this originally started 10 years ago, the seed was the youth soccer league didn't have a place to play. They're still playing in Ranchos now. And you've got 700 people, kids, that don't have a place to play in some ways now. I know the youth soccer league's a little bit smaller than that, but it's a large chunk of our youth that doesn't have an opportunity to play. So talking from a social fabric standpoint as opposed to an economic development, your second field should be something that provides for youth soccer. It should be something that provides for youth football. It should be something that provides for the community as a whole to use and is not directly specifically tied to soccer. Now, one of the alternative options that was actually built as a phasing process was a baseball field. There was actually a baseball field included. It wasn't a Little League field. It was an adult-sized field because there was a growing demand for ages, I think, 14 and up for baseball. There were that many kids playing that one field is not enough. So there actually is another opportunity there. So yes, the answer is yes. We're trying to incorporate everybody into this thing. It's just that we're piece by piece getting there.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Justin. I think that while I appreciate the optimism and being optimistic, we also have to be realistic in what our budget is now and what our priority is, especially when we have some serious issues with some of our capital projects that we need to get to as far as the maintenance on some of our buildings. It's going to be tough, and almost next to impossible to say we're going to build the second or third field. I know that the monies that are tied up in this lawsuit with the contractor clearly are to be used for the completion of what they didn't complete. So I believe that's what the priority of the council is going to be, to get the phase one completed the way as it was supposed to. So I would like to see perhaps some alternatives, and how are we going to collectively work together to go after some grant monies, because that seems more realistic than us being able to come out within our budget when we're having to do drastic cuts on some of our core responsibilities. And I know the argument could be, well, it takes money to make money to generate GRT, which we would have the money, but there's a fine balance in what can we do exactly. So I would like to kind of see it, maybe a more aggressive approach by the TSA to look for those corporate sponsorship that perhaps would create a field and make it a destination for their for exactly what we're trying to achieve here. So
Yes, Mayor. And we are. I mean, we have been. As a volunteer, I always think that I'm just going to spend volunteer hours on something, but it's actually become like more of a full-time job. But we meet twice a month, if not more, and we talk about our options to build to that next level. We now have 4 employees based on the monies that we have, and we're exploring all kinds of different options on how we can get the town to the best position. And again, like as a volunteer, like I'm not here. This isn't for my benefit. Indirectly it is, but the time and effort that my board has spent on this, that my employees have spent on this, like they truly care about the development of the economy of this community. We are doing this for the community. We're doing this for you. We are building this for you guys. Like we spent, probably, I spent 40 hours alone just by myself on this thing. We're trying to work with you to show you that this is the right move. And we're just asking you to continue to fund us at this point. We'd love for you to continue to explore the idea of the next field. And nonetheless, we would welcome you to at least remain open-minded for any type of funding opportunities that we may have.
Great. Okay, I know that we've spent we have a long agenda, and we do have a budget presentation that will identify exactly where we're at in the next 5 years and where we're going from here. So, is there any other comments on this issue? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Justin.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Next, we'll go to item B, presentation by High Altitude Athletics. Debbie Friday-Jaggers will give an update on High Altitude Athletics, and we'll discuss the upcoming fundraising dinner, April 13, 2013, with Olympic gold medalist Nastia Lukin. Olympic gold medalist will be in attendance. So, welcome.
Very nice. Good evening, Mayor, council members, manager. I am here on behalf of the 500 students and their families and our staff and our board to say thank you very, very much. I was thrilled to hear that a couple of you had a chance to go check out the renovations this evening. We are thriving. And we thank you for believing in the program and believing in keeping these wonderful old buildings and renovating them so that they can reach their maximum capacity and maximum use. As I say, we've grown to 500 registered students. And as you've seen from our reports, we've produced over $80,000 in in-kind services for the community just from June through December of last year. And that was before the renovation was completed. The renovation, however, is providing us opportunities to expand our programs while keeping everything very, very affordable for our citizens. The aftercare program has grown to as many as 25 students per day, thanks to our wonderful classroom. The summer camp and spring break camps will be able to grow, and we are hoping to host our very first competition meet coming up this summer. Our boys program, we now are at pre-team status, and we hope to see them compete next year. We're very, very proud of that program. And our toddler program, I was just told today, has now grown to 40 kids for open gym toddler program on Saturdays. So there's 40 little ones running around in there for free every Saturday morning. So thank you. Thank you for the improvements. We take them very responsibly and seriously. And I'm here to announce our very next exciting chapter. High Altitude Athletics is proud to announce that we will be hosting 2 events with Olympic gold medalist Nastia Lukin. She was the all-around champion in Beijing in 2008. She's currently a spokesperson for Subway restaurants, CoverGirl, and a number of other things. You've probably seen her doing the commentary for the gymnastics this year with the Olympics on television. She's coming to Taos on April the 13th, and you might have seen this poster around. They're coming up all over town, and we'll leave a few for you. There are 2 events that we wanted to make you aware of. First, because Ms. Lukin has a very parallel thinking to what HAA is all about, she's agreed to offer a free fitness clinic to the children of our community. the morning of the event. So from 11 to noon, the Town of Taos, thank you for being a sponsor. We will be doing a free fitness clinic at Rio Grande Hall, where you actually get to work out with an Olympian. And all the first 250 children will receive goodie bags and T-shirts, as well as we'll have random drawings for physical fitness equipment while they're there. So we're hoping to give away some bicycles and helmets and tennis rackets and soccer balls. And then later that evening, we are hosting a fundraising dinner. It's $100 a person over at Baton Hall, and she will briefly talk on what it's like to overcome challenges and how important it is to live a healthy and active lifestyle for our children. We're hoping to host about 400 people. We've sold 130 tickets so far. And everyone that comes to the dinner will be guaranteed an autograph and a photograph with Nastia. And she's quite a public speaker, so we're really, really excited about having her. Sponsorships in the community are as little as $100 because we really want everyone to feel a part of this. This is a big deal as far as we can see, and I don't know how many other Olympians, forgive me, I didn't do my homework on that, have visited to Taos and made time for an event like this, so we're very excited about it. And all the local media have been involved. The television stations should be here. It's a wonderful coincidence that it's in April, which is Super Soccer Showcase Month. So Taos will certainly be on the map for sports tourism in the month of April. And we hope you can join us, and we just wanted to let you know all the great new exciting things that are going on over there. So thank you all again.
Thank you. Thank you. Debbie, I just want to really commend you and your organization. Every time I've gone there, there's just so much enthusiasm in the room, and it's one of the best things that I've done and supported as mayor, the high altitude athletics. It's utilizing our buildings for truly community use, and what better way to do that than supporting our youth. So thank you very much. Is there any other comments, questions? Thank you, and we look forward to
I'll leave a couple of
joining
these with you.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you. And once again, this is Saturday, April 13, 2013 at Baton Hall Civic Plaza Drive at 6 p.m. I encourage everyone to support our youth and high altitude athletics as well. Okay. Thank you, Debbie. Next, we have Resolution 1309, mid-year budget adjustment requests. Oscar.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, what we have for you today is our traditional mid-year adjustments of the budget. Our finance director, Mariana Fambro, is going to walk us through all of the adjustments that we're recommending tonight. In this plan for adjustments, you'll find all of the savings plan that we brought to you back in November. Yes, it was in November, as well as a few other ones. And among those is the budget adjustment that's going to be necessary in order for us to move the police department from its current facility to Town Hall. And so there's going to be a sort of a sub-presentation, if you will, under that one, so that the council is fully aware of what all is entailed in that adjustment. It totals $32,000, but we think it's very important for you to understand exactly how that's going to be spent. And by that means also for you to consent formally to this relocation of the police department. And then after that, we're going to follow up with our budget. And so anyway, this is the first step. So basically this adjusts the budget that then later on we're going to show you how, if we project it, where we're going to be in 5 years.
Mr. Mayor, council members, town manager, you have attached with your agenda packet the summary and the resolution in detail. In general fund, we have, like Oscar stated, covered our projected shortage that we had anticipated. We did have an extra approximately $64,000 of additional savings on top of that, and we will be transferring some of that into a street and maintenance repair project for the future, since we did have that. But we did meet between all the departments, we had general fund savings of $363,000. And like I said, $298,000 of that will offset what we anticipated out of the general fund. The gross receipts tax, as stated, right now through the end of December, well, through December was at 4.42. You've had a more updated report through January, but we still are anticipating at this time right now the 6% decrease that we projected in November. So I could either go down through the summary, or if you have any questions directly, I will just stand for them at this time.
Any comments, questions on the budget adjustment request?
Because if there's none, then what I would like, Mr. Mayor and Council, is to then step up our presentation by the police department. That is one of the adjustments that's in front of you, and I just think it's important for you to understand how much it's going to cost, why it's going to cost that much, and by that measure also ask your formal approval for the resources to make this move. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Manager Rodriguez. Thank you. Ken Koch, your police chief. As we're booting up the PowerPoint presentation here, I will just tell you that this process has been about a 4-month-long effort that has involved basically everyone in this room at one point or another, working very closely with my fellow department heads and leaders of town staff. We have come up with what you're going to see here this evening, which is a proposal to move the police department from its current location into existing office space within Town Hall. This obviously offsets the need to build a police department for several years. The space that we'll be moving into will be more than adequate for what we need for the years to come. And we can be done at our best estimates to a tune of about $32,000.
Mr. Mayor, while that's coming up, could I ask a question real quickly?
Yes.
We have a roof replacement at the TCA for $100,000. When that building was remodeled 3 or 4 years ago, that roof wasn't replaced on the old part of the building, or what is this?
Councilmember Peralta, I'll yield to our facilities director if he's here. He is back there to answer that question for you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. It's my understanding that that renovation did not include any roof work at all. The front part of the building got a new roof, but the back part, which is the larger portion, remained the same. The roof that's on there now was put in the 80s. It's a foam roof. It was badly done. We've had several roof leaks, and we had a serious water damage claim. Our staff went up and patched it this summer and this late fall to try to bring us through to the winter. But if it stays in the condition it is, we're going to have it's near the point of failure. It's the worst roof on any town building we have.
It's worse than Bataan?
Well, we've got a lot of bad ones, but yes, sir, it is.
Flat roofs. Mr. Mayor.
It's that. Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez.
Steve, you said that was a claim, so is that insurance-wise, or is that?
Yes, there was damage to the interior of the structure because of a roof leak. This was before I got here. I'm not sure of the extent of it. We just recently finished the claim and got a small amount of money back. The interior was repaired, but the roof is in really bad condition.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? We're waiting for a PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, sir. For some reason, it's not coming up on our screens.
There's another item that we can go to while they're figuring that out.
Well, the next item is even a longer PowerPoint, so
if it's okay with the council while they're figuring that out, I think we can discuss item I, since we had a lengthy discussion this morning. I think basically on item I, the new joint powers agreement for Taos Regional Dispatch Center was discussed in length this morning, and I think it's the consensus of the council that it's our desire to move forward with the county. unless you want longer discussion on
No, Mr. Mayor, if you could, I had a question for our Public Works Director. Is he here?
Sure.
French? This has to do with the budget, but it doesn't have to do with the budget. I noticed yesterday again that manhole next to Walgreens was overflowing again. Do we have anything in your shop to get that fixed? Because it seems like about every 6 months that line gets plugged up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Oscar. Councilmember Peralta, what I will do is we'll go evaluate the manhole and see why it continues to fail. It might be that the line downstream has collapsed and there's an obstruction in there, but we'll go clean it out and TV it, and I'll give the report to Oscar so that he can pass it along.
I noticed this morning that there was no longer any fluid coming up through that manhole cover, but there was yesterday. It hadn't gotten to the point where it has in the past. But I think we need to look at that in the future, because if it's a continuing service issue, and there's been times when we've had real stuff coming out of that, substantial. So,
sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other comments? I think on item I, if it's okay with the council, I think the direction to staff is continue working with the county to come up with a joint powers agreements around, within the confines of how it's written now, as long as it doesn't change significantly, and bring it back to the council for final approval, unless there's other input from the council. But it was my understanding that pretty much the concerns that were brought up were pretty much just legal answers that needed to be answered correctly, and nothing significant changed or proposed.
If I may, though, Mayor, Councilman Peralta and I just came back from making a presentation to the Cuesta Council, and they heard the presentation fully. We talked about the joint powers agreement. The only really issue that they raised was the question of cost, of course, and they're running the numbers based on how the document's written right now, and they're thinking that it's going to be an amount that they won't be able to afford. The way I left it with them was that, well, of course, it was, the town of Taos wrote it, and we wrote it, to a percentage that we thought would be generous, but is more fair and more reflective of the burden that we should be bearing. And so maybe the conversation they should have about how much they should pay should be a conversation between them and the county. And so I say that because that conversation might then take place in terms that is how much Cuesta should pay, and should they be, as it stands right now, that Ski Valley and Cuesta would make up 1/3 of the base fee, and then from that point on it'd be driven by a volume of calls. In the case of, I guess for both of them, they feel that's just an amount that they're not going to be able to afford. So I just point that out, that might be one of the areas that we'll see some revisions or some changes, at least by the two other stakeholders, the smaller stakeholders.
Okay. So that's the new information. So I would recommend that we continue allowing staff to dialogue and then bring a final version on a future agenda. If that's okay with the council. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
So we're done with that agenda item then?
I'd like to make a few comments concerning that item. For those that didn't get the opportunity to attend this morning, we had a joint meeting, a work study session with the County Commission on this item, and also on the potential annexation of the Taos Airport. And the good news is we're going to have a very healthy working relationship between the Town Council and the County Commission, long overdue, but the bottom line is all those personal agendas that existed are gone. And now we're going to work together as a team for the benefit of the community. And 95% of the people in the community are going to be happy with the outcome. And you're always going to have a few folks that are going to be the outliers, that are going to be out in la-la land and aren't going to see the big picture. But you know what? That's what makes a democracy. And we're committed to moving forward, and it's going to work extremely well. And I'm pleased to be part of it.
Okay. We ready for the presentation?
I believe so. Apologize for the delay.
Okay.
Again, this is a presentation on the move of the police department into existing office space in Town Hall. Someone could please advance the slide for me?
Yeah,
We still don't have
the
it up.
screens aren't working yet. There's something wrong with our computer screens. So that, Mayor, how about item H then?
Working our way backwards.
Let's go to item H. Oscar, lease purchase agreement between Taos Emergency Dispatch Center and Kit Carson Electric Co-op. Oscar.
Yes, sir. This item was put on your agenda because, as I reported earlier today at the joint meeting, 2 weeks ago, the stakeholders voted to, accept the consultant's recommendation and to recommend to our respective bodies that we start looking at the cost for going to the Kit Carson Command Center. But there was also an amendment that was made there by the county that was accepted unanimously by all the stakeholders, was to also move forward on the lease purchase agreement, or lease purchase agreement, so that the two would come forward at the same time, and that the governing bodies would then have very clearly the policy both policy decisions in front of them. That's why this item is here. As it stands right now, we are still in draft form for this, Mr. Mayor, and we only recently were able to get the Kit Carson's lawyers to get involved. At this point, we haven't had too much engagement from the county. And so anyway, that's why this item is here. With your permission, I'm going to be putting this item pretty much for every council meeting, so that as soon as we have a draft, that you'll have that draft in front of you, and we'll be able to give you a full briefing on that. So that's why it's here.
It's my understanding, Oscar, though, that this purchase or lease would be approved by the JPA, the board that's formed by the JPA. So we're just looking at.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We want to make sure that all the community, everybody sees it, even as it's coming up in draft, so that it's very transparent.
Councilmember Peralta.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could also, as part of the discussion this morning with the County Commission, was that the decision by the board of the command center would make a decision as to where we move, what the costs would be for that move, and if it would be to the command center or some other location or whatever. They would create some proposals, some scenarios to the public bodies to make a decision on as to how it would meet or could not meet our budgetary processes, including the possibility for a independent funding source for this to happen as well. So it's important for us to negotiate a lease, because that would be part of the fabric that goes into the command center decision making decision by all the parties.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Are we still working on it?
Well, it's up here. The problem is that it's not coming up on your screen, so what we may have to do is, this is the best we can do, because it's not part of your.
Let's take care of item 10A and 10B. It's just a procedural. Item 10A, the ordinance 1302 sign code modifications. This was continued from the December 11th, 2013 meeting. Staff at the beginning of the meeting recommended that we will continue this at the pleasure of the council to the March 26th, 2013 meeting at 6:30.
For the February 26th.
February 26th.
Yes, sir.
It says March 26th.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
For the next,
March
council meeting.
March 26th. So I would entertain a motion to continue this item.
So moves, sir.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Let the record show that we are continuing this item to February 26th, 2013, regular council meeting at 6:30. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item B, ordinance 1303.
Sorry, Mayor and council members, that date should have actually been March 26th.
March.
Because of the planning interim planning director.
March 26th. Okay, so let's go back to that item and entertain a motion to withdraw the motion.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
I apologize for the confusion there, Mr. Mayor. We'll do better next time.
Entertain a motion to continue the ordinance public hearing to March 26th, 2013, regular council meeting at 6:30 p.m.
So move.
Motion.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item B, ordinance 1303. That is the planning and zoning, streamlining planning and zoning processes. Consideration and approval of ordinance 1303, revising chapters 15 and 16 of the town code. Also, entertain a motion to continue to March 26th, regular council meeting, 2013, at 6:30 p.m.
So move.
Here we go.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. So, Oscar, continue on with item, what item are we on here?
9C, Mr. Mayor.
9C.
And our trusty IT guy has made it all work for me.
Save the night.
Thank you.
Save the day.
Thank you, Ruben. Right. Chief.
Honorable Mayor, council members, again, thank you. Ken Koch, your police chief. We have a very short presentation here related to our planned move of the police department to town hall. To begin with, Ruben, if you'll advance a slide, what we've done is broken down this entire process into 4 phases. You'll see that in phase 1 and 2, our intent here is to take the existing legal department and the existing HR department, and through some structural changes inside the town hall itself, create what will be legal in the planning department, facilitating the move of legal and planning into those office spaces, and then taking the existing planning department, creating some internal changes for security and for operational needs of a police department within that existing office space, and then moving the police department into what is currently the planning department for what will be, for the foreseeable future, the Taos Police Department. This project is projected to cost a total of $32,000. As you see, it's broken down there, excuse me, by phase, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation related to those costs. Depicted visually here, you'll see what it is we're trying to do in phase 1 and 2. Will be the realignment, if you will, of the existing legal department and HR department, utilizing existing unoccupied office space in that region of town hall, realigning some walls and office doors, and then facilitating the move of legal and planning into that office space. The projected cost for phase 1 and 2, as you see, is $5,500 and will be completed by town staff. Phase 3 and 4 will involve the reconstruction, if you will, or realignment of the existing planning department so that it becomes functional as a police department. You'll notice the majority of the changes here involve a realignment, if you will, of the existing lobby area so that we have secure public interface with our records department, basically the welcoming area, if you will, of the police department. And then throughout the rest of the floor plan, we're making some minor changes to facilitate an actual interview and interrogation room. We'll be installing video and surveillance systems so that we can record those interviews for our criminal prosecutions and investigations, and then also to facilitate our evidence storage in a secure manner that is mandated by our chain of custody needs. The total cost for this project is estimated to be $26,500. And we're achieving that through a number of savings in reusing of existing doors, existing infrastructure within our current building to facilitate some of our security needs, which I'll also address here in just a moment. Other things for consideration in this process were the savings that we incurred by reutilizing existing doors, both standard and security doors. The existing countertops within the planning department will be refurbished and utilized within our lobby area of the police department. And we also looked at, within this planning process, the other considerations that impact the project, such as the signage, parking needs for the police department and its marked units, the furniture that would be used, custodial impacts for town staff, utility savings. All of these things have been looked at and evaluated, again, by the majority of the folks in this room, and I want to extend my personal thanks to them, and I stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Councilmember Peralta?
The only question I have, Chief, is timetable.
As soon as we get approval to start this, our estimates are 3 months in construction with an additional 30 days max to facilitate all the moves.
This is just a dumb question.
No such thing, sir.
How much of the furniture is worth moving?
The furniture in the existing police department will not be utilized unless it's absolutely necessary. There is existing furniture within the vacant office space of Town Hall that is currently being unused that will be put to use for all of the departments in their respective moves.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to commend you, Chief, and Oscar, and all involved, everyone working on it. I think this is an excellent idea. I think the space was way underutilized, and I think that it's long overdue getting the police department a much-needed new facility.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Not, we will move on. Well, we will entertain a motion to approve the recommended budget adjustments for various departments. Councilman.
Move for approval.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Must be that time of night or something. Okay. Next, we will go to item D, approval of a 5-year budget plan to guide the FY 2013-2014 budget. Consideration and possible approval of 5-year budget forecast and assumptions that will guide the development of the upcoming fiscal year. Oscar.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, with this, we want to then kick off, really, from our standpoint, the budget development process. This is a practice I've followed, and a standard practice in many places, where before you develop your budget, you try and see how your current trends will be taking you over the next 5 years. Then you try and balance that budget, and you do it with some guidance from the policymakers. That's you, and that guidance would be you approving the assumptions that we use to balance that budget over the next 5 years. Based on those assumptions, based on the information that we have, then what comes to you in the spring is a budget that you will have started, in essence, will have informed. And so that it will come to you then as no surprise, and as best possible meet your expectations. So it's with that's what we're trying to do here. It's with that aim in mind that we prepare this presentation. Now, along with this, to understand that this is the first time that the organization has done this, there is also just some very basic and very serious information that we need to convey to you about the financial condition of the town.
Mr. Mayor, what we have before you, like Oscar said, a new process going forward involving the policymakers to, do the initial steps on preparation of the budget. We will take this back to the directors and the departments and go forward with that. So the first slide that you see on the presentation is items that you have seen in the past, I think through the retreat, the council retreat that you did back in, I think it may be September or so. And just showing, actually November, just showing the business activity from 1984 up to 2010, and this was based on the Taos economic report done through the Taos County Chamber of Commerce. So just showing the actual dollars and real dollars of increases and decreases throughout the year, the increases, and then come down to the economy when it suffered and going down through 2010.
Now, what's very important here is the long line. I mean, obviously the peak is very important, but the long line that you see starting from 84 through 2004, 2006, this long line of every year revenues being greater than the previous year. Now, even the most disciplined, I would tell you, and I've been in many different organizations, some that had a lot of discipline, but I would tell you that even the most disciplined organization would have a very hard time not burning into their procedures, not burning into the way they make decisions and how they do business. this expectation that the next year is going to be better even than this year. And with that, then you start to make decisions and start to condition your finances and what you do with this expectation. So it's going to be, it would be really hard for any organization to begin to budget sort of expecting that the next year there's going to be you can hit the peak and then it'll start to go downwards. Now, what's particularly I think special about Taos is that when the economy hit that peak, it didn't then begin to continually go downward. There were a couple of times it actually went up again. I think giving people somehow the confidence that, well, you know, we're over it, and now we can kind of continue as business as usual. Anyway, you'll see this pattern. You'll see this pattern. No matter how you look at the local economic activity, whether it was GRT, which you saw earlier, total employment, you know, after a long period of continued growth, then finally a peak and then a continual decline. The same would go with would go even if you looked at it in terms of personal income. Again, a long period of increase, continual increase, a peak and then continual decline. All right, and in some of those cases, you know, you would say even the bottom completely fell out of some of these sectors.
And this one is based on our own figures on town history, based on a 10-year average growth, and it shows that, you know, we have continued to increase our expenditures, but our revenues are not compensating for that expenditure increase. So if we tend to go the way we've been going, you know, we can see a deficit, and it just will not work. We need to change that practice and go forward. And based on the next couple of slides, this is our projections going into the next 5 years. I mean, they are projections, but we feel comfortable in presenting them to you and with the assumptions on these.
Now, we've added there, you've seen this graph before. I've shown this in the community everywhere. Just to point out again for those who may not have seen them, we've added some dotted lines there to just to give you an idea of how much the trend would have to change in order for certain scenarios to happen. So, for example, if you were to expect that there was going to be a 2% revenue growth, you can just see how much the curve would have to just totally change direction for that to come true. Likewise with and by the way, it would have to be a 2% revenue growth in order to keep up with expenditures the way they're headed right now. And likewise for expenditures to change direction, even, you know, that 2%, just how much you'd have to wrench that trend in order to get it to go to a different direction. We show you that as a way to indicate to you just the pain, if you will, the hard work that's going to take to change this course. And anyway, that's what our 5-year plan is all about.
So on the our budget assumptions going forward with this new fiscal year we are anticipating a 1% average annual revenue increase for the next 5 years. Based on that revenue increase, there's certain trends that are coming out. The Taos Economic Report, third quarter, just came out with a first increase of a 3.6% on the gross receipts tax. Now that's only 1 quarter so far, so, you know, 3.6% on that. The states, under their consensus on the general fund revenue estimates that DFA had presented to the state legislature, their average for the next 4 years on gross receipts is 3.65%. Obviously, Taos and us and our local economy is, you know, we need to be reasonable on not exceeding any of those revenues, over projecting, and so we feel comfortable with a 1% increase on the revenue side. The next set is a 0.3 average percent of expenditures cut, except for public safety. They're based on what we have presented, and you'll see it in the numbers on the next slide. We are projecting an average of that cut for the next 5 years. And once we get to the numbers, you'll see that the first couple years are a big hit on a decrease, where then the last 3 years will be a small increase going forward.
And to be sure, when we say we're cutting everywhere except public safety, really what we're doing here is just holding public safety to inflation. So it's really not increasing, we're just not cutting them.
The next assumption that we do have is a capital reinvestment equal to our depreciation. In the past, we haven't covered our assets to the point that we need to. And we've never reinvested, put money aside. You know, maybe back in the days when we had that extra cash flow coming from GRT, we did that. But going forward, we need to actually have a plan. And you'll see this also in the presentation under the capital improvement side, that we need to reinvest and set aside an amount for whatever is depreciating. We have buildings and we have streets, systems that are over 20, 30, 40 years old that, you know, we need to start taking real serious care of.
For example, our public works director points out to me that in the past, the town used to spend several $100,000s a year for resurfacing of streets. And that practice fell off at least a couple of years ago. And you see it out there. I guess, again, as an outsider, someone coming into the community, you see that the condition of the streets have been neglected, or they've been neglected, and they're deteriorating. And it's a kind of deterioration that if you don't catch up with it, someday you actually want to do something about it, will cost you a lot more because you're coming back to it from the standpoint of having to rebuild the base, et cetera.
The next item is we do have also a draft of a debt policy just to manage our debt. You know, we need to set some limits. We need to see what's going to come up next. But, you know, we've never had an actual debt policy. So behind this presentation, we do have a draft of a debt management policy in draft form. And some of these other items will come up to you during the budget process, changing different policies of, you know, Oscar's expertise and his background on what he sees that we need to do and implement.
The main point here is to very strictly define what a capital investment is, such that we're not spending capital dollars to carry on operations. Over the years, the policy has gotten, well, to the point that there's a lot of repairs, a lot of things that at least I would advise you is not capital improvement that has been paid for through debt and through capital funds. And so that's the main thing we want to change here.
And the last thing is a gradual increase to our reserve, our ending balance, so that we increase that to a 40-day effective ending balance based on just what the state's requirement is 1/12 of 30 days. You know, and that's a gradual buildup to, you know, we're going to have to do a lot of work to just cover for the first 2 years on the decreases that we are anticipating. So this is a gradual increase to that amount.
And the other part, and we'll point that out very clearly, we want to stop the practice, or we're recommending a different policy direction in terms of what we consider to be recurring costs. Up until now, at least for many years, the way the town has been proceeding is that there's a lot of costs that were just deemed, were called non-recurring costs, and for that reason was paid for after we calculated our 1/12. And by that means we were able to sort of to make a very, we were able to make our 1/12, and we're recommending in the budget that you can see from now on is that these recurring costs, and for example, the 911 center, the town's contribution to the correctional fund, some $104,000, and also the money that we put aside for marketing, which we've done that for a few years, to the point that now it would be hard to defend that it's a non-recurring cost. We're saying put all that into the recurring costs and then balance your budget based on that, as opposed to the way it's happened in the past where we kind of did it off the balance sheet, if you will.
So the next slide is just a summary of what you have is just the approved budget that we did approve this year. We have made the amendments. This amended side is based on not this mid-year process, but what we had already anticipated on being the $412,000 short, and making those adjustments to the gross receipts tax, as you can see. And what Oscar did say under the expenditure side, like he said, we've always used in the practice of the 1/12 and the carryover money as reoccurring to fund central dispatch, law enforcement, the correction fund, and now the marketing budget. So you can see that big increase in those figures down on culture and recreation. In public safety, even though this year we've already amended that, we're going to keep that solid, but we have included those figures going forward as a reoccurring cost in our general fund and our general fund revenues. So we've turned these into actual dollars as they would be, as right now, based on the 1.7% CPI. And going forward, that's just a 1% on the revenue side. And you'll see after the total expenditure line item, there's a non-public safety decrease and increase. So what we've seen in this first year going into 13-14, we're looking at a 2.6% decrease for the budget, not affecting public safety, just keeping them as quo. The next year, a 1.9% increase. Same within all the other categories. And then the next 3 years, you get at a 0.5 increase, a 1.25, and a 1.25. So that's that average of the 0.3% throughout the full 5 years.
And you can see how the numbers go down. I mean, we start out with a budget of $10.5 million, and 5 years from now, we'll be at a budget of $10.2 million. So there is, even over 5 years, will have been that cut. And again, as Marietta explained, these are 2012 dollars, so it's current dollars. So that 10.2 million is a true number as you would see it today. So there is that $300,000 cut over 5 years. I mean, eventually to 5 years.
You know, and based on this current year's budget and past revenue processes and procedures on budgeting, you know, we expected to get this much. We, you know, realized after 4 or 5 months with gross receipts down, you know, we had to make the adjustment. You know, it's a hard process to go through or to detail that, you know, we're going to be accurate on this, but we feel that this is how we see it right now at this point. We have 5 more months of GRT to come in. You know, the next month is going to be very critical. It accounts for at least 10% of the overall monthly amount that we get. So this is going to be a big amount that comes in now in February. And so, but for now, this is how we feel our projections are going.
Okay. Councilmember Peralta.
Thank you, Mayor. Oscar, on the projections, let's say, for example, that in the 2014 budget, the actual revenues coming in, let's say, were instead of 1%, they came in 3%. That would mean that the ending balance for that fiscal year would be up 2%, correct?
Yes. Yes.
In the budget for 2015, are you looking at making an adjustment to that budget, or are you going to hold to that budget and increase the bottom line savings rather than increasing expenditures and so forth?
We will be going through this exercise every year, Councilman.
But I'm just saying,
at that moment, we'll be making those adjustments, and so as the years change, as new facts come in, as reality becomes, projections become fact, we will be adjusting this, and so that's where we'll be making that adjustment.
But what I'm coming at is that would it be better for us to adjust the bottom line, in other words, the $850,000 that we're ending, or let's say, for example, the $856,000 that we're ending in 2015 budget year, to increase that bottom line rather than adjusting expenditures to meet.
I see. Yes, in other words, it hit our 40-day reserve right away that
Earlier.
way. Okay, and we will, sir, if that is the direction as part of the assumptions we should make in balancing our budget, you bet we will take that into
And
account.
realizing that next year you're going to give us another year at the end of the cycle, but I'm just asking, Mr. Mayor, from the council, if because I look at that bottom line and it scares me a little bit. And so I would like to look at a way, if we have extra revenues coming in, rather than looking at a way to spend it, is looking at a way that we create our reserve first.
Yes. Okay.
To become conservative in that regard, and then start looking at how we can readjust ourselves coming forward.
Yes, sir. I got it completely. And so with your budget, with the proposed budget, you'll also have there our recommended policies, financial policies, and we'll make sure that that's one of those.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
The next slide is just an overview of...
Previously, I mean, leading into this one, I'm sorry, Maria. In the previous chart that you had, or table that you had, there is no capital expenditures here. So as we mentioned, that's one of our assumptions, that we're not funding any of this, anything close to operations with debt or with capital dollars. All that is going to come to you as a separate budget, as a separate capital budget, which is the next one that you have.
So just to give you a summary of, you can see the current approved budget obviously has all the figures in it, the revenue sources, grants, wherever carryover monies in each fund, as in capital projects, and then the actual carryover projects and the new projects that have been identified. What we have going for the next same thing, we're estimating the gross receipts tax revenues at the same percentage assumption of 1%. You'll see excess from capital GRT that's helping fund any capital projects, gas tax money, which are associated just to the streets. So when we actually prepare the budget, we'll identify those street projects to that gas tax excess amount. And is the expenditures below is explaining our reinvestment and replacement. And what we're recommending is that we put an amount to equal to that depreciation amount of $491,000 and the increase going forward every 5 years to build up that reinvestment to replace, if it's going to be 5 streets or a building, roofs throughout, whatever it may be. And then program grant projects, which would be our CDBG project. We know that grant amount we would always want to apply for, so we've included there. This will be actually complete a lot more once we have done our initial 5-year CIP request from all the departments. We also have the current CIP requests, which already total up to $2 million of requests and $800,000 in actual cash that we need to fund all the projects that the departments have already requested. In the bottom line, you can see that our cash balance for new projects is $457,000.
And so, we've gone about 2 months now in exercise with our departments, asking them to propose capital improvement projects. And we told them only real important ones. And then on top of that, we want you to prioritize them by year, so that the most important ones come up at the first year, and then so on and so forth. And so they've come to us with proposals, and then we very rudely even shoved them back, said no, it's still way too much, just so that we could close the door on a figure that we could get a handle on. And I can tell you, even as it stands right now, just critical projects, and you heard earlier from Director Kennebeck, roofs that are failing, streets that are crumbling, etc. Just that, some $2 million. In other words, 5 times more than what we have resources for here now. Excuse me, double what we have here. So if we were to just for sure put aside that $500,000 just to replace the roofs, just to get back on a resurfacing program with streets, etc., and did nothing more than that, you would have available for projects, for example, like the airport, some $450,000. And again, we're only doing the most critical things here. So if that money was not going to be used for a project like the airport, then what I'm telling you is that we have double the need to use those resources. So as I have communicated our position in the talks about the airport, et cetera, where I said, well, look, the only way that the town's going to be able to afford to take on such a debt, to do such a project, is if we go into debt for that. And I stand here to recommend to you that we not go into such a debt like that unless there's a way to be able to pay that back. And it's because of this. I mean, we are in these conditions, again, after many years of the town seeing of just a rosier year after rosier year. Things have come down, and there's just a lot of commitments out there, and I think it took the town a while. If you could just sort of do like a forensic analysis here of what happened, it took the town a while to finally realize that those rosy years weren't coming back. And meanwhile, the operations were bigger than maybe they should have been. Commitments were made in directions that they shouldn't have been. That short-term solution to not spend here, to kind of cut back on that, et cetera. All those solutions have now played into a situation where we have very depreciated capital, and it's going to take us a real hard struggle and going through a lot of pain to address those, at least enough in a way that we can keep moving forward. So anyway, it was Mayor and Council. It was with that scenario that we have been working on for the last couple of months. That I've been communicating to you, that why it's so very important that we find a way to fund what we're trying to do at the airport, as opposed to just do some more debt and sort of assume that next year things are going to get better.
Thank you, Mayor. Oscar, in the grants, does that include the potential for CDBG grants?
Yes, sir. And
you
see
anything else?
Yes, sir. That $491,000 and $491,642. You'll see that also under the program grant projects. So if we get that grant, it's because we get an expenditure, and it's not because we can turn that into street resurfacing or roof repairs and things like that.
And I understand that, but I just want to see, because we talked about this as to where that would be in the thing. The other question I have, though, in looking at this is, one is, have we received recently a co-op monies from Highway Department for road projects?
Yes, Councilmember Peralta, under the 59 fund, which is the gas tax fund, there are a couple of co-op projects in there. They're just, I think the progress on them is, I'm not positive where we are on construction or whatever we're doing with those.
Okay. But in your budget going forward, in that line item, for example, then you're not projecting any co-op projects?
No, and these are pretty much blank. This is just the nuts and bolts of what us as our town cash match can be available to match some of those. Once we've gotten to review the CIPs and the ICIPs, we'll fill in the blanks and bring this back to you during the budget process to show those exact amounts based on applications that have been turned in or whatever it may be.
Okay. So in the aviation budget, then, that does not include the construction of the new runway?
No, not yet.
Okay. So you're not showing that anywhere in your budget?
No, sir. In any case, it would be, at least for the purposes of this analysis, it would be a zero sum, because we'd show the increase, but we'd also have to show the expenditure down at the bottom.
Okay. Maybe on some of these special projects like the airport runway, like the money that we anticipate getting from the Abeta settlement for water improvements within the town, maybe there should be an analysis going to the council in a separate report saying, if these funds come through, because the Abeta case, who knows when that could happen, 5 years from now or 1 year from now, how the staff would like to propose to the council and the mayor a recommendation as to how those funds should be used on special projects. We know what the runway is, but I'm just saying is that you would want to see how that separately from the routine capital improvements budget, those special projects and what we anticipate for those.
All right.
It might be interesting, and particularly for the public as well.
Sir, we'll come to you. In fact, we'll include that in the budget, in our budget document, just sort of what the plans are for any future CIP. Because what you will have in your CIP is a 5-year plan. So we'll have all of the list of projects that we recommend this year and the ones we recommend the following year, et cetera. And so that way the council can say, well, it makes sense, move them around, there's one missing, et cetera.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Oscar.
Well, there's just one last, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. There's one last thing.
Is there?
Yes.
Oh.
There's one last thing. And so after this exercise.
Oh, yes. Well, actually, I think that's not on the presentation. It's actually on your
We
the
have
debt
it on
policies.
our iPads.
That one's on the iPad. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
on the
we have
iPad.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Um,
Anyway, at the end, yes, sir. At the end, after the big gap, gap is closed and things are running parallel. That's the objective. There you
Oh,
go.
that's it. That's right. I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
Yes, it has been a long day. Anyway, there it is.
That's the last slide.
Well, I just want to thank Oscar and Marietta and Abigail and all the departments really for changing the way we think in these economic times. That's really what we have to do and really utilize the monies that we have and have a strategic plan on how we're going to take care of these capital improvements.
And we'll come out stronger after we go through here. We'll come out a lot stronger.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will go to the
Mr.
legal
Mayor,
department
That
review.
was an approval item?
Oh, that's approval. Thank you there, Councilmember Beta. Consideration approval of budget plan to guide the fiscal year 2013, 2014 budget.
Move for approval as recommended by Council Peralta.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to the legal department review. Brian. Uh-oh.
Take your picture off. You're presenting. Just trying to pawn it off.
What are you doing up here?
Mr. Mayor, what you have here then is just another installment of our departments. The person who's been working with the departments, by the way, for all the departments that you've seen so far, has been Abigail, our assistant town manager. And so I guess starting with legal, we're going to hand the presentation back to her, who has been guiding the departments through this whole process. So in the past, I was the one that got down there, so I think it's flying well now, and I'm just going to hand it back to the staff.
He did get an award.
Welcome.
Yes, and he reminds us daily about that. Mr. Mayor, council members, as Oscar stated, this is just another department that we've been working on, legal department, and later on you'll be hearing the town clerk's presentation. The legal's mission here really is to talk about the numerous outstanding projects that they've been currently working on, and their focus will be to strategize and prioritize the outstanding legal issues.
That's our logo.
Justice.
That's your title.
Does it really balance?
Well, some days more than others. All right, the duties and responsibilities, and I'll tell you right now, this is really hard to make this interesting. We have a lot of contact with each other, so it's not a surprise what we do. We represent the town in lawsuits. We initiate lawsuits as necessary. Spend a lot of time working on matters that the staff brings in. We're currently working on ordinance redrafts of the sign ordinance, streamlining the planning department procedures. We're working on a personnel code, and on Friday I'll be in Albuquerque working on with the New Mexico Finance Authority on changes to the affordable housing ordinance so we can rejuvenate that program. We manage the tort claims, and primarily Cindy does this, and we assist with follow-up as necessary. Preparing contracts, we do more than one a day. We assure that the town's properties are insured, and we collect unpaid lodger's tax and past due utility and landfill accounts. And when I say we relative to collections, that's essentially Cindy. Our budget is theoretically $367,000. Of that, half of it goes to salaries and benefits. The entire department is here, I'm here, and Cindy's over there behind the computer. The balance of that budget, a little over half of it, is for outside contract counsel or contract experts. I'm very pleased to report that we have exactly one contract with an outside lawyer at this time, and that is for public defender work, and it's an amount not to exceed $5,000. When we started in June, we had a handful of them, to say the least. So we've reeled all those back in, and I think we have 100% of the legal work of the town centered in our office now without outside assistance. Relative to levels of service, if you're a court, you get immediate attention, and that will never change. If you're in the public, we give you a same-day email or phone call return. If you happen to be the mayor, the council, or the manager, you also get a same-day response. You get regular updates, and we try to get opinion letters out within 2 days. Sometimes we do better depending on if it's a question we know something about. Relative to internal staff, we don't do appointments and meetings. If you have a problem, you can walk into our office anytime Monday through Thursday, and we'll try to answer your question. Friday I save for writing and research, and I try not to schedule anything on Fridays so that I can pay some attention to things that need some longer attention spans. I would guess that we probably are running a little over 90% in immediate resolutions with the staff problems. We will do same-day email return every day, including Friday. We had usually a one-day turnaround on contracts, memorandums of understanding, those sorts of things. We collected about 3/4 of the lodger's tax that was reported to us as past due and owing. That would be 100%, except we have one hotel that's trying to close a loan, and been monitoring them weekly. We have not filed the lien, because if we file the lien, they won't close the loan. If they don't close the loan, they're going to close, period. It seems counterproductive. So we have received a good faith payment from them recently. We have one outstanding hotel that's responsible for that not being 100%. Relative to the really low numbers of utility and landfill accounts that we collect, the office has accumulated over the past several years, if not more than a decade, a long list of unpaid and deadbeat accounts. There is a process that we'll be bringing to council one of these days shortly to declare those as bad debts and uncollectible debts, and that will increase our ability to claim a higher percentage rate. Now, we have collected $51,000 in past due lodger's tax this year, collected $8,000 in past due utility and landfill accounts, and primarily because of my paralegal Cindy, we collected $34,000 from insurance companies for damages to town equipment. The best thing we have going for us is a highly motivated and experienced attorney. That would be me. He said with all modesty. We have a very experienced paralegal who has an outstanding corporate memory and knowledge, and I just got here in June, and Cindy's been an invaluable resource in helping us keep track of where we were, where we are, and where we're supposed to be. We have some weaknesses. We have a lot of unresolved legal issues, less now than we did 6 months ago. Hopefully 6 months from now we'll have far less. The other weakness is that we don't have a junior attorney, and I guess since my spare office just disappeared about a half hour ago, we're not likely to get one. Unless I find an attorney I can hang in the closet. So we don't have anybody with less experience to handle stuff that you don't need a 32-year attorney to handle. Sometimes that means that we handle contract approvals and routine matters to the expense of larger items. The opportunities have been immense to change the direction of the town's approach to its legal issues. We're actually working on the files, and that's a change apparently from the recent past, and I don't mean to cast dispersions on anybody that preceded me. There's a lot of reasons why cases don't move. Sometimes there's no political will to do it. Sometimes the council will not be supportive of moving those things ahead, or sometimes you might just have an unmotivated lawyer. I don't know which was happening because I wasn't here. At any rate, we're trying also to create a different attitude with the town staff. It's sometimes easy to tell people, oh, you just can't do that. Well, it doesn't really help anybody, so we're trying to move from a can't do to a how-to, and I think we've been pretty successful at that. It's sort of self-explanatory. I don't have staff or council or mayor or the manager coming to me and asking me to do illegal things, so it's not a matter of trying to figure out a way to break the law. It's trying to figure out a way to understand what the end product needs to be and how to get there in a defensible and appropriate manner. Threats are leaving work unattended due to a lack of time to address all the outstanding legal issues, and there's a real dearth of data in New Mexico relative to what an appropriate franchise fee rate would be. We have a lot of franchise agreements. None of them are expired by virtue of a statute passed in the Roundhouse a year ago that extended them throughout the state. I'm not sure that the magic of increasing our franchise revenue is in trying to get a higher percentage. The magic of it may well be making sure that those people that are paying franchise fees are paying on the right amount of income. And that is not something that the town is currently positioned to investigate. For instance, the city of Santa Fe has been involved in a lawsuit with Quest over the last, 6 or 7 years, and the issue in the lawsuit is not what percent they're supposed to pay, Quest is supposed to pay, but what percent of what income. For instance, Quest does not pay franchise fees on their wholesale, what they call their wholesale product. Santa Fe is on behalf, I suppose, of all municipalities in New Mexico trying to help redefine that, whether the town is going to have the resources to look at all those franchise fee payers and determine if they're paying on the right amount of money is, right now, that's not going to happen. We have no one to do it. Relative to the work plan, it's pretty simple. We're going to assemble, review, and prioritize the legal services needed. We're still cleaning up a bunch of stuff that's pretty old. I would like to be more proactive. One of the things we want to be more proactive with is trying to create some more diversity on our boards and commissions. We don't have any pending EEOC claims. It's always good to, if you get the EEOC issues, to be able to demonstrate that the town has made an effort to find and preserve diversity in its boards and commissions. So that is one proactive step that we've been able to work on. I've already told you that we're upgrading the code, talked about the franchise agreements. We were supposed to change that process, the rejuvenation of the hacienda inn, but we didn't. So we are processing the rejuvenation of the hacienda inn. Trying to not so much throw people in jail, but to try to get the hacienda inn back on the tax rolls as a productive business in the community as opposed to a non-productive eyesore. We're trying to upgrade the procurement process. We're still seeing too many expired contracts and those sorts of things. Those are internal matters, and with the manager and assistant manager and the department head's assistants, we're getting much better with that. We still have a ways to go, and we're always looking to make sure that we're keeping up with the following the procurement rules because they're well understood and relatively easy to use and very difficult to explain when you don't use them. That said, the only other thing I would add is you can't move cases, and we moved some cases. You can't move cases without the support of the mayor, the council, and the manager. I am extremely pleased with the sort of direction and support that my office has received. Our direction from this mayor, this council, this manager has been to first and foremost protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and at the same time protect the public dollars. We've been successful in getting rid of more than $500,000 worth of counterclaims against the town, and we are trying to set a tone so that people that want to play fast and loose with contracts, construction projects, and things of that nature come to the conclusion that Taos is not the right place to do that and need to take that crap to Texas or Arizona or someplace else. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to now sit for questions.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Councilmember Peralta.
California.
Brian, I just want to know why you aren't interested in sharing your office with your junior attorney.
Well, I guess if we could probably wax some space up and I could move like my wastebasket and files out. At that point, we might have some room. Or I could work from home. That's always an option.
Any other comments, questions?
Brian, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done in my short tenure here with the town and how easy you've made it look, I guess, to overcome the obstacles of the legalities of government. And your extensive knowledge is a huge resource to this board. And for that, we thank you.
Well,
I thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
I just want to say you're quite the tiger.
Well, we're trying to, it really is an education process, and we've delivered a couple messages, and we've got a couple more to deliver to the slow learners, but we'll get there.
There you go.
I just want to say, as mayor, it's certainly an honor and privilege to serve with such a high level of competence in yourself that you've demonstrated in your office, and that's the reason why specifically I chose you as the Mayor's Excellence and Achievement Award, is because of your professionalism and your will to follow the direction of the council. And I just want to thank you and Cindy for doing an excellent job in the legal department, especially reeling in all these contracts that were out and really just getting our legal department. I remember when I interviewed you, I said that was one of my questions: how do you deal with all these attorneys that are suing the town and bogging down our legal department simply because they want to have billable hours for their client? And you said you just take them to court, and that's what you do. And I just want to let the public know that this last time I've seen Brian in a couple of instances in court, and he doesn't mess around, and he gets the judge quickly on the town side based on common sense and facts. And I think the Hacienda Inn owner knows that very, very well now. And unfortunately, he thought that he could disregard a judge's order, and that's one thing that you just don't do, no matter who the attorney is. But you articulated the case very well and showed them not only was it contempt of court, but it was willful contempt of court, and the judge responded and cited on the town side.
Well, that's 100% on the judge. Great judges have one characteristic in common, and that's that they enforce their orders. And this judge enforced her order to the benefit of the health, safety, and welfare of this community, and we were very pleased by that.
Sure. Thank you, and once again, great job, Cindy and Brian.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. All right, next we'll go to the town clerk's department review. Madam Clerk.
We have it.
It's on the iPad.
You can view
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, we are having technical difficulties once again, but the PowerPoint presentation is currently located on your iPad, so if you can follow us off of there, please. Sure. In working with Renee, we learned that her position, the town clerk position, is the second oldest position created in public service. Not that she's old, but that her position is old. Second to that of the treasurer, and her primary role is to provide records to the public or to maintain the records for the public, and also to assist in facilitating open government, and that's her primary focus, and I'll allow her to elaborate on how she helped the town improve in that area.
Thank you, Abigail, and I don't know if you have had the moment to go into your iPads to review my presentation, and I feel a little bit bad. I should have put myself before Brian, because now you're going to be very bored with my presentation, and especially since you can't really see it. But the duties and responsibilities of the clerk's office are outlined in the New Mexico state statutes. We're responsible for town council meetings, and that includes coordinating and recording minutes of the meetings. We do this in accordance with the public records, with the Open Meetings Act, as well as our own Open Meetings Resolution. We're also responsible for public records, which includes recording and filing all historical documents recorded at the town of Taos. We notify the public of upcoming ordinances, as well as notify the public once an ordinance is adopted. And then we also ensure compliance with the Inspection of Public Records Act by providing documents and records to the public when they are requested. Then we're also responsible for the destruction of records, and that's in accordance with the records retention schedule. Another responsibility is conducting municipal elections, and this is done on even-numbered years unless there is a request for a special election, and that's in compliance with the New Mexico Municipal Election Code. And we're also responsible for coordinating and processing all special dispenser permits and liquor licenses that are located within the municipality. The resources within the department, we have 2 full-time staff employees, myself as well as the clerk's assistant, which is Francella Garcia. Our budget consists of $680,280. 24% of that is for the operation and management of the department, and then 76% is for salaries and benefits. And that percentage also includes the entire executive staff, which is the town manager, assistant manager, town clerk, executive support staff, and the IT department. So it doesn't all go to me. And then also the technology that we use within the department. We've recently purchased Novus Agenda. That is our web-based agenda management process. This is accessible to staff as well as the mayor and council, and this helps our agenda process become more automated. Once the agenda is completed, it posts automatically to the website for access by the public. They can view both the agenda as well as the agenda packet. And then we also purchased Laserfish in 2011, and this is our electronic document management system, and this assists us with making our records management program more automated. It helps with search capabilities, as well as it improves our retrieval process as well. The level of service that we provide with regard to council meetings, we coordinate and attend all council meetings of the governing body. In 2012, we had 38 regular and special meetings, which lasted an average of 2.29 hours per meeting. The agendas are available to the public within 72 hours of each council meeting, and minutes are prepared in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. The Act states that we shall provide a draft of the minutes within 10 working days of a meeting. However, I usually have a draft by the following day, the day after the meeting, and those are posted to the website immediately for public access. We're responsible for recording and filing all historical records of the town. In addition, like I mentioned before, the ordinances are published in the Taos News 14 days prior to the public hearing, and then the day after the public hearing is held, it's the ordinance is sent to the Taos News for publication at the next, in the next publication of the Taos News. And in 2012, we had 76 resolutions and 16 ordinances. We're also responsible for ensuring that the public has access to our records, and this is in accordance with the Inspection of Public Records Act. The Act requires us to provide a response to the public within 3 days of receiving the request. However, as an internal policy, we reply usually within 2 days of the request. And then we're also responsible for the disposal of our records. 2 years ago, actually maybe a little over a year ago, we destroyed right around 1,500 boxes that were left in storage units throughout the town. And those records were just kind of forgotten. A lot of them dated back to the 1970s. So we reviewed those and ensured that they were okay to be destroyed in compliance with our records retention schedule. And so one of our goals is to be able to address those types of issues. With regard to municipal elections, we are responsible for conducting the municipal elections, and part of that responsibility includes ensuring that the council passes an election resolution notifying the public of the election. We also ensure that candidates who are running for office are qualified to run for office in accordance with the election code. I also provide training for staff and early voting staff, as well as precinct workers, to ensure that everybody is properly trained for election day. And I keep in constant contact with the county clerk to ensure that we have updated voter registers as well as voting machines to be used on election day. And all these responsibilities are in accordance with the election code. We also are responsible for coordinating liquor licenses, and this includes special dispenser permits. Last year, we processed 18 permits, and we do this with a turnover of 2 days. Once we receive the application, we try to have it approved by staff within 3 days. And then with regard to liquor licenses, when we receive an application, I coordinate a public hearing immediately upon receipt of that, and I coordinate it with the applicant. The council has directed me to streamline this process and expedite it as much as possible to assist the applicant, and we usually will have a public hearing at the next regular meeting if possible, or we'll schedule a special meeting for that. We have 52 current licenses right now, and we send out notices in May for receipt of municipal liquor license tax in June. And I feel that one of the main strengths of the department is that we have a very cross-trained veteran staff. I've been the clerk for 7 years, and I was a deputy clerk for 9 years prior to that. Francella, the clerk's assistant, was with the grants department for 4 years, and she's been with the clerk's department for 3 years. And I feel that her background in the budgeting department has helped our department quite a bit with her experience and knowledge in the budget. She manages our budget as well as our contracts. And then I'm also a certified municipal clerk and a master municipal clerk. There's only 11 master municipal clerks in the state of New Mexico out of 105 municipalities. And Francella completed her training for a certified municipal clerk, and she should have her certification by the end of this year. And then another strength of our department, as I mentioned, is the purchase of our software that we have, which is Novus Agenda and Laserfish. The threats that the office has seen is that we've experienced a 52% increase in requests for public records since 2009. The mayor had mentioned at the State of the Town address that there was a survey that was conducted in 2011, and that showed that the town of Taos receives more requests than larger municipalities such as Las Cruces, Rio Rancho, and Alamogordo. Due to the numerous requests that we receive and the amount of time we spend responding to these requests, we have just found it difficult to be able to improve on ongoing processes that we're responsible for, which includes the records management system that we're trying to get off the ground. Weaknesses that we have encountered is that currently there's no way for staff or citizens to do their own research on records. If anybody from the public has a request, they'll come directly to our office. And if they don't know the exact record that they need, if they know that something was approved in the 70s, the only way for us to research that record is to go into the books and go page by page. And that could take 1 to 2 days to retrieve a record like that. And then another weakness that we have found is that other departments are unaware of the liabilities that we have if we don't respond to public records requests in a timely manner. So understanding that all departments are very busy, Friend Sala and I do spend a lot of our time reminding people that there's a request that needs their attention. And we also do need to work on that records management program as soon as possible. And that would include a manual for all departments to follow. The opportunities that we have is right now we're working on a project where we're scanning and indexing all of our records dating back to 1934 to the incorporation. We have a contract with General Code right now, so they're going to be starting the processing of that contract. And the result of this project will be that instead of going to those hard records and going through pages and pages of records, we'll now be able to put in a keyword, and all documents with that keyword will come up instantaneously. I'm thinking that that will save us 95% of our time researching these records. And then we also have a computer in our review room in the clerk's office, and that will help staff or citizens to come in and do their own research of our records. And then we've also purchased iPads for staff and council and the mayor, and that has cut our time in producing agenda packets. Prior, we used to spend a day to a day and a half compiling packets. We would compile 10 packets and maybe 100 to 300 pages of paper in each packet. And now, with the click of a button, we can finalize the agenda, and it's posted on the website in seconds, and it's accessible to everybody. Our work plan is we want to ensure that transparency is continuing by establishing a state-of-the-art records management system. And like I mentioned, this will include a manual for use by all town employees, and this will avoid us having to deal with destroying 1,500 boxes that are sitting out there in sheds. Instead, we'll do a yearly purge of those records that are okay to be destroyed. And we'd like to make the public records available to the public via the town's website. Right now, we can access some of the records on our website. However, there are no search capabilities when you're trying to research those documents, and they don't go back to 1934. They go back, some go back to 2005, others go back to 2000. So we'd like to get all those records available. And then this initiative would not only cut staff time in researching records, but it would also allow the staff or public to be able to do their own research from the convenience of their homes. And then we'd also like to start providing records analysis to the manager when we see that public records requests have increased. We feel that this might help the manager and the mayor and council to determine what events have taken place or are taking place that might need their attention. And we have some projects that we're working on. The first is a public records request fees analysis. I've been working on an analysis to determine whether the town should raise their rates from 15 cents to $1. That analysis is complete, and I plan to bring that plan to you at the end of the month or early February. And thank you. Early March. Did you want to say?
If I may just add a little bit there. The analysis we're working on here is to show you the big spenders, if you will, those cases where just a couple of individuals actually generate a big part of that workload that comes here. And so we'll be coming to you with an increase in fees. The first 3 copies that you need will be free for anybody, and that's the vast majority of people who ask for documents. But it's only for those people who just need a lot of extra attention, a lot of extra workload that those fee would be increased.
And also, from our analysis, we determined that the increase in fees would only affect about 15% of the requesters. Almost all of our records are either emailed to people or they come in to inspect them. Very seldom do we have people request actual copies. I believe last fiscal year we received like $216 in revenue from our copies, so it won't affect a lot of people.
Now, there's new development. People are coming in with PDF machines, which is a great.
Yeah.
We think that's a great development, and it's just for in those cases where staff has to dig out a bunch of stuff, copy a bunch of stuff. I think we recommend.
Yeah, and we just feel that it would be fair to be able to cut or to cover costs that we spend on staff time and ink and paper. That's why we would do this request.
And on that note, members of the council, I believe when I became on the council, those costs were looked at, and I know that they were significantly higher. And in an effort to become more open and transparent, we lowered them so that the costs would be comparable to what a copy costs. Instead of $1 a copy, I remember we lowered it.
Yes.
However, there is some people that tend to be more burdensome than others, I guess, if you will. And that really sometimes take up more time, and the production of those copies then becomes a burden on the town.
Yeah, it does.
We're not here to make a profit on that, but we just simply want to cover our costs. So
Yeah,
I
and it's not
certainly
just
support
a
that.
copy either. It's the staff's time that we're spending, retrieving the document and making copies and separating documents.
I would certainly support that, and some type of matrix that we would address that to make the town whole.
And I think with regards to that, Mr. Mayor, that the county
50 cents.
charges 50 cents a copy from one page to whatever, and that's through even the voter lists, everything else that we've pulled during the elections from them, so it's not out of line.
And the other thing that we do is that we will offer, email to people. We'll offer to scan the document and email the document to them instead of making the copy, and that's worked really well. So like I said, we seldom make copies. They're almost all emailed or inspected.
Mr. Mayor, though, the more that we get documents and so forth online to where people can do their own research, the less time the staff will have to, except in special occasions where they need something specific, like a memo that went between departments or something like that may not be there. But other documents that are requested usually are stuff that should be online and should be able to research. And so as the clerk gets closer to that, the better off we are. I'd just like to ask one question here, and thank you very much for all you're doing to try to get this done. And you're doing a good job in getting it there because it's really important. And one of the areas that I particularly would like to thank you in that is getting the agendas and the backup information online and saving a few trees. So in that regard, if you can just tell the council how much paper you've saved in the last few months, not having to make all of these copies in your budget.
How about if you talk about it in terms of inches?
Or trees.
Okay.
Or trees. Cases of trees.
Okay, so in terms of
3 trees.
Yeah, I would say a forest. No, like I mentioned earlier, each packet that we were compiling, I think today's packet was over 200 pages. So every time we were compiling packets, we were compiling 200 pages per packet, and that was probably 2 reams of paper, which, is probably about that high. So you determine that and take into account that we have a meeting twice a month. So yeah.
So you're saving basically a case of paper a month.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, if not more.
Plus your time.
And not only that, staff
Plus the
time
changes.
spent. We were spending a half a day to a day compiling. That's why I was, constantly a little worried that we weren't getting our packets done because I knew we were going to spend quite a few hours getting our packets together.
And then every time there was an amendment to it,
Oh,
you had to
yeah.
redo it.
Yes. We'd go and pull out pages and put them back in and sometimes pull out the wrong pages. And so it was very time consuming.
Just a bit antiquated.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
So we're
for
there.
the gift of putting it online, because I love it.
God, thank you.
He was the
for your
hardest one to
support.
sell on it, too.
I know. We're getting there.
Had his heels dug in the ground.
I think that the investment in the iPads is one of the best things we could have done.
iPads?
Most government entities before the iPad was popular, they all have laptops. Every meeting that I go to, and it's in an effort to save on paper and staff time putting those packets together.
Yeah.
Great.
We're a model for other communities, for sure. So,
okay.
I'm proud to say that. And then some of the other objectives that we have is I plan to have an inspection of public records workshop for staff on a yearly basis, and this is going to take care of those issues where I'm concerned about the liabilities that the town might face if we don't get our requests addressed in a timely manner. And then Novus Agenda Workshop, I want to do that twice a year. Things change within management, and I want the department heads to be clear as to what's expected of them to get their agenda items in. Scanning and indexing of public records, that's the project I mentioned earlier, and I should have that complete by the end of June of this year. And the records management manual, I need to get that complete, and I want to get that complete by September 30th of this year. Another project that is coming up that I've been in contact with our GIS planner for some time. He's very busy, but I would like him to help us be able to search our deeds and easements. All of our records that we have that are deeds and easements just have a property description and our legal description, and it's very difficult for us to determine where these properties are. So Ed Ramsey has agreed to help us with that, and it depends on his schedule and how much work he has, but I would like to have that complete by June 30th of 2014. And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Renee, and please extend our appreciation to all your staff.
Okay.
And we appreciate the patience also that sometimes you have to demonstrate with some people also. So thank you. Great job.
Thank you, Renee.
Thanks.
Okay. Next item, we will go to Resolution 1312, Resolution in Support. Consideration and approval of Resolution 1312 stating the town's support for consolidation in Taos of the Department of Interior's agencies' dispatch operations in northern New Mexico. As you know, members of the council, I did send a letter of support from the mayor's office encouraging BLM to consider Taos as one of its areas that they, as the area that they regionalize and locate to. The town manager has recommended that we do that in form of a resolution, and that is in what's in front of you today. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor, and then I would like to, I guess, reiterate with what the resolution states and the letter that you've sent off, and how valuable this, entity is into joining our operations as well in our ability to move forward and to keep those operations here within our community. And I know Oscar and I have had several conversations with regards to the economic impact of losing those families with regards to gaining them as opposed to losing them to Santa Fe. So highly in support of this.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? If not, entertain Oscar, do you have any comments on this?
No, sir. The only thing I would just add, the Mayor Pro Tem and I met with the staff of Senator Udall, who also urged us to turn that letter of support into a resolution so that they could then use that as a way to tell the federal agencies that this was important for everybody.
Okay. Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second. Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we have item number 12. Any other comments from the mayor and council? Item number 11. And then we go to number 12. Any other comments from the mayor and council? I know that while we were waiting, there were some other comments that were made about anything in particular. Seeing none, then we'll go to item number 12. What is the pleasure of the council? Move to adjourn.
Wait.
Move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Hold on, Rudy.
What about item 11A and B?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And also, you'd pull those back because not everybody in the on those lists had agreed. So up until now.
Oh.
Yeah, we removed those. They didn't
You
need
continued
official.
the other items,
Yeah.
but you didn't do anything with these.
Yeah, we didn't. At the beginning, we needed to vote on the continuance. These items, we pulled them.
I guess I missed it.
I think I did too.
And members, I just would like to make a few comments since we're talking about it. And I think there was some confusion because Councilmember Peralta was correct in stating the amendment because the manager did recommend removal of these, but he was recommending the continuance of the other items. So if that's what the understanding, is that what you have on the record?
That's what I understood also, that
Okay.
these two items were just removed from the agenda. The
And
other
the other
ones were
two.
to be continued.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Mr. Mayor, there's two. I was just told that there's two members in the audience who've been waiting all this time for these two matters.
Okay. Okay. So why don't we just go ahead and discuss the item here? I believe that we have two individuals, but there is some concern that there's maybe some other ones that may not
What we were trying to do is put in front of you the full list for this one as well as for the committee. And so since we haven't completed the full list, that's why I was thinking we would pull it, but I didn't know that they were here.
I would like to.
I'm sorry about that.
As my understanding, that Councilmember Peralta has a couple of names that are interested as well. So I look forward to receiving those names. But Mr. Kennebec, if you can introduce the gentlemen that are interested in serving, so that we can bring these names at a later meeting when we have the full composure.
Oh, sir, I know Doug Patterson. I'm not aware of the other gentleman's name.
And you can.
I'm just a passive observer.
All right. This is Doug. Okay.
But I'd be happy to serve.
You got it. Submit your name. Okay, submit your name. Doug, I just want to thank you for, are you interested in continuing? I understand? Yeah. I just want to think that your service to the town is invaluable. The contributions that you make, I've seen you in action, and you're level-headed and your common sense approach, and especially your background in your firm. So I really appreciate you taking out of your busy day to serve the town of Taos, and we appreciate that.
You're welcome. I look forward to serving.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, members of the council, we on that item, we will forego that item until we bring the full list. And the item B, is that?
It's the same here, Mr. Mayor. Well, I just take responsibility for this. When I asked the staff to find somebody, they did. We just didn't ask if they were residents of town.
Okay.
And so we're just getting to that right now. And so we'll have for you that complete list.
Okay. So since we discussed those, I would entertain a motion just to table those since we did discuss them.
Move to table, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to table those. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Now we're at item 12.
Move to adjourn.
So move.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Good night. That's what 9 hours of meetings do you all day.
6 getting here.